Okay, so today we want to talk about how we personally made going to Japan not only a possibility, but a tangible reality for ourselves time and time again. Welcome back to our channel, Sarah and Chance Worldwide, and if it's your first time here, welcome to our channel.
So, if you've been subscribed to our channel for about a year, then you probably know that our very first video on this channel was called How to Travel to Japan for 3 weeks for $3,000 or less. And since then, we have been back to Japan multiple times and have learned a ton more in terms of just cheap flights, cheap accommodation, how to have a good budget trip in Japan. So we wanted to give that video a little update with better audio and better information.
Maybe a little bit of explosions here and there. You give it a try. Well, we can work on the explosions.
Hey.
But most importantly, we want to talk to you about how you can take our experiences and apply them to your situations to make your trip to Japan easy, cheap, and so much fun.
So before we get into it, I just want to have a little precursor that says we do not have any rewards programs, even though we probably should by now, so we're not using points to redeem any of this money. We don't have any sponsorships from any of the companies that we mention in this video or anything that makes traveling cheaper for us than it would for you.
Let's get right into it. First and foremost, you have to get to and from Japan. So we're going to talk about flights, how to get cheap flights to and from Japan. We have been to Japan 5 times and we've spent around $500 round trip every single time except for once, but that was a special occasion, the worst time to fly. So don't take that one into consideration. But the apps and resources that we use are Hopper, Skyscanner, Scott's Cheap Flights, and newly we've been using one called Secret Flying.
So these are all, with the exception of Scott's Cheap Flights, apps that you can download on your phone that will send you push notifications when flight trends are rising or falling from any airport to any other country. So it makes it really, really easy to know when to buy the tickets that you need for your trip. Scott's Cheap Flights is an email subscription that does the same thing, but it's less tailored towards you, and it just sends you crazy flight deals for the whole world. So you tell it where you live, and they'll tell you where to go if you want to save money. Japan is on there quite often.
Okay, so we're talking about cheap flights, budget-friendly options. This isn't about convenience sake. So you might have to try to look at different airports, not in the same state or a city that you live in, to get a better deal. Flying from, say, Omaha, Nebraska to Japan is gonna be pretty expensive, but a flight from Omaha, Nebraska to California is gonna be really cheap, and then you can get flights for a third of the cost from California to Japan and back.
Yeah, so definitely keep in mind what the cheapest international airport is in the area that you live in. We live in Denver, and we have flown out of Denver a couple times, but more often than not, we will get flights from Denver to LA and fly out of LA, just because we know that that's the cheapest international airport that we have access to. It sometimes can save you a huge amount of money at the sake of a little convenience and a little time if you just consider flying out of an airport that has cheaper deals.
Also, you might get lucky and find non-stop flights for a really good deal like we have in the past, but you need to look at other options as well. If you're not finding deals for non-stop flights, you can look at ones that have longer layovers, multiple layovers, or just longer distance traveled in general. You might sacrifice maybe a couple of hours to a day, but you're gonna save maybe even half the cost of a ticket price. So it's definitely worth it if you're looking for budget travel.
Exactly. So don't only look for the luxury option if you're looking to have a budget flight. You can't complain if you have to go a couple states over or take a flight with a layover when you would rather not, because we're here to save money and we understand that you are too. So sacrifice for your convenience a little bit and you can get to Japan for really cheap.
Exactly. That money you save on your flight can be used for experiences while you're in Japan and make your vacation that much better. So now that we've covered how we get to and from Japan at a cheap price, we want to talk about our experiences in Japan and how we've made our trips that have been at least 2 weeks long to a month and a half long possible, feasible, and a ridiculous amount of fun. The first thing you want to look into after booking your flight is accommodations, where you're going to be staying while you're in Japan. We, on all of our trips, have mostly just used Airbnb. It's the cheapest, it's been the most reliable. We haven't had any issues in the 5 times we've been to Japan using Airbnb. Even when there was the issue of Airbnbs being closed down because of the restrictions, we had a couple Airbnbs cancel on us.
Like the day before.
But we were able to get our money back for the accommodation plus a credit for the amount that we were supposed to have at the accommodation. So we got double our money's worth, and there were enough options for us to just find a new one and go there for free, basically.
Yeah, so a lot of people are hesitant to use Airbnb while traveling in Japan just because Japan just recently in the last few years cracked down on the laws regarding who can host an Airbnb residence in the country. So for about a year, it was pretty rocky in terms of whether or not you were actually going to be able to stay at the accommodation that you booked. But long story short, we were those people that were there and experiencing those difficulties. And all in all, it still paid off big time for us to continue to use Airbnb instead of general hotels because we saved a ton of money on nightly expenses and then ended up getting any money back that they owed us to begin with. So trust Airbnb, take our word for it. We have a ton of experience. If you're looking to save money in Japan, Airbnb is really the way to go.
100%. Now, if you don't book your accommodations early enough, since Airbnb is very popular, especially during peak times of travel in Japan, you're gonna find yourself with not very many options, especially affordable options in Japan. So you're gonna wanna look at other options. We've looked at booking.com and we don't have very much experience with hostels or couch surfing services, but those are other viable, cheap options that we have heard people time and time again stand by for being amazing for cheap travel in Japan.
Yeah, so us personally, we always book Airbnbs or hotels that are private with a room for just us, and that's a little pricier than you might find if you're traveling alone or you don't mind dormitory living. But us personally, we have spent as little as $12 USD per night and only as much as $100 on a very pricey accommodation. So as you can see, it's quite possible to find cheap places to stay in Japan.
Yeah, and our average price for Airbnbs is about $30 a night for 2 people. So if you're one person, even cheaper. So
another big thing you're gonna have to consider when you're planning your trip to Japan is what part of Japan or parts of Japan that you're planning on traveling in.
All right, so for this next part, I need you to zoom in on my face so that way you can really drive home the fact this is serious. No, like my whole, no, not my mouth. What are we even paying you for, man? Are you Sorry for that interruption. We just hired a new camera guy and he's not the best. He's learning, but just be patient with him. This is our new camera technician, Pumpkin.
Say hi, Pumpkin.
He's doing his best, so a little patience is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. Anyways, we need to talk about travel in Japan. If you're planning on just going to Japan the cheapest way possible and staying in wherever you're flying into, whether it be Tokyo, Osaka, anywhere, and just staying there for your trip, that's gonna be the absolute cheapest way to see Japan on a budget. But if you're like us and you wanna see more of Japan, the Rail Pass is and has been our best bang for buck in Japan for travel. We have gone from the southernmost tip of Japan all the way up off the north coast to Hokkaido and saved thousands of dollars with just this rail pass.
Yeah, so the Japan Rail Pass, we've talked about a lot in other videos, but if you don't know what it is, it's just a pass that you can buy before your trip to Japan, and it allows you unlimited travel on local and bullet trains run by the JR Group in Japan, and so you can travel for free all over the country.
We won't get into the prices of the pass or whatever. We'll link in the description below. If you're interested in that, you can just go to their website. They have a calculator for figuring out if it's worth it for you. But there's another option, not just rail passes or staying in one place. Say you want to go to Tokyo, but you also want to go to Sapporo because you want to snowboard or you want to see the flower fields in Hokkaido. Well, you can get a domestic flight within Japan for extremely cheap. We've gotten flights from Tokyo to Okinawa for less than $100 round trip.
Oh yeah, easy. Sometimes they're even like $20 round trip. It's extremely cheap to fly domestic in Japan. So all in all, whether you only want to stay in one place or you want to go to 2 places or 7 or 8 places, there is an option for you, whether it be staying in one place, the rail pass, or a domestic flight, that will make your travel in Japan really cost effective. And even if you are doing the cheapest route and you're just gonna stay in Tokyo for even 2 whole weeks, there's gonna be something new for you to do every single day. So don't worry, it's very possible to be in Japan on a low budget.
There are even other options for budget travel, but we haven't used them. There's overnight buses, there's long distance buses, all those things that you could use and look into, but we haven't used them, so we don't want to waste your time talking about things we have not done. Next, we need to talk about your daily budget in Japan, and that can be wildly different for whoever is going to Japan. But we want to focus on those budget travelers who want to get to Japan no matter what and be there and at least have a good time, at least be able to go out and do something every single day.
So over our 5 trips, our daily budget has been extremely different trip to trip. So for example, on our first trip, we had no idea that we were going to be able to eat at restaurants because we're vegan, and we didn't know that Japan catered to vegans, which it does. But our daily budget was literally gone within the first week of our 3-week trip. So for the last 2 weeks, we had to survive on a lot less, and we still had a great time. So if I'm remembering correctly, we have lived in Japan happily off of together as little as $40 US per day and as much as several hundred per day. So it's really not a topic that you can say too much about, just that even if you have almost no money to work with for your trip, you still can do it.
I would even say if you have no dietary restrictions and you want to go out to restaurants and do something fun like every single day, you can survive, well, I don't want to say survive, you can thrive off of as little as $10 US a day, and that's going to give you an amazing vacation. That's if you just want to go to Japan and you need to see Japan no matter what. Obviously, you're going to want to spend more money because there's so much you can do. It's overwhelming, honestly. But this specific video is for budget travelers, so we're trying to give the absolute minimum of what you need to get to Japan and have a good time.
So hopefully with all of this information, you feel good about being able to start actually planning your trip to Japan on a small budget and make those dreams a reality. And honestly, all things considered, I don't even know if other people would consider what we're doing extreme budget traveling. There is a lot more money to be saved if you give up some of the conveniences that we have not yet. So take this video and do what you will, and you could save so much money compared to the average traveler in Japan.
So thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you subscribe. Hit that thumbs up if we helped you. Comment down below some questions or concerns you have with our video, our budgets, your budget even. We'd love to help you, and we will see you next time.
Bye.